A very warm welcome back to the channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I know it doesn't really do too much, but it would mean a lot. In today's aviation news recap, I take a look at an airline leaving an airport, an airline expanding its fleet, and some developments around Etihad Airways. That's where I want to begin, with the Abu Dhabi-based carrier saying it carried 1.4 million passengers across April 2024, with load factors at 84%. In its latest release, the carrier highlighted the visible improvements enjoyed year over year. 1 year prior, across the same period, Etihad only carried 1 million passengers with an 81% load factor. Therefore, we saw increases across the board. The airline's fleet size is something that also increased pretty substantially in the space of 12 months. At the end of April, the airline said it had 89 aircraft to its name, up from the 75 that were present in April of 2023. Additionally, we saw 5 new destinations added to the network. Typically, as an airline may look to expand its network, if not done so in, say, the most optimal manner, they may see load factors drop because, say, the services don't get the response they're after. For Etihad Airways to see this increase means that they've selected the right ones. The month also represented another important month for the company on their way to continued growth. Their CEO highlighted the 39% year-on-year customer growth as incredibly encouraging, meaning that the changes, like I said, that happened to their network positively affected the business. We also saw solid results in the first quarter that I recently covered. Similar to its passenger numbers, the underlying theme has really been positivity, which is hard to find in our industry of late, I'm sure you're aware. Etihad Airways is also currently on a pathway to growth, which is highlighted through Journey 2030. This plan will see the airline more than double its fleet, focusing on increasing the number of destinations it serves as well. The return, though, of one specific aircraft has been hugely important in enabling the airline to boost its capacity. The aircraft I'm talking of is the Airbus A380. Initially, Etihad had no plans to return the aircraft back to service. And then it really focused on London Heathrow as its only destination for the aircraft, which some considered weird. But after some persistent network studies, the airline went on to determine that, guess what? Other markets were in need of a capacity boost, and there was one aircraft type that was perfect for that. So as a result, Etihad now uses the A380 on its New York route alongside London Heathrow, and from November 1, the company will reintroduce the world's largest passenger plane on service to Paris. For an aircraft that seemingly had no future within the airline's operations during the pandemic, its return has been a sight to behold, and as airlines battle ongoing supply chain difficulty and therefore a difficulty in acquiring next-gen planes, these existing wide-bodies have once more become very useful. On to the next story, and that sits with Play Airlines. Now, they are an Iceland-based low-cost carrier, and they've unveiled their plans for future operations with thanks to an interview with Points Guy that will be linked below in the description. So, over the next 5 years or so, really if they could though before decade's end, Play hopes to double its fleet size from the current operational 10 units all the way up to 20. Like I say, quick maths there. The increased number of aircraft available to the airline are expected to allow them to grow and really focus on reaching new markets, and if they see fit, boost flights to in-demand locations as well, basically chasing profitability wherever possible. Play relies solely on a fleet of Airbus A320neo family jets. At the end of the day, this is a next-generation aircraft type, and not only does their commitment to this series mean they have one of the youngest fleets in Europe, but it also means that they can rely on a brand new jet rather than, say, operating decade-old planes. The carrier utilizes this fleet I speak of to already fly to several markets around Europe and stretching to North America. Play really focuses on destinations that are near key cities, but maybe won't fly into the primary airport. Flying into, say, a location such as New York JFK, while certainly optimal for onward connectivity, has high associated costs, which can be a massive deterrence for airlines that are operating on the cheap. While Play won't rule out flying here one day, it looks towards Stewart International Airport. Now, Stewart International Airport is located in the southern Hudson Valley, around 60 miles from Manhattan. While a modest airport in size, the location presents opportunities for Play to lower operational costs. As more aircraft arrive, the airline has identified several markets in eastern Canada and also the eastern part of the United States that it would like to target. And with the arrival of more aircraft in the coming years, alongside the continued, hopefully stabilizing of this relatively new business, all these endeavors will be made possible. To ensure that Play can survive long enough to expand its fleet by 2029, it must learn, though, how to navigate that all-critical winter period. For companies like Play, the winter season often represents the business's slowest months, and it's fine to have these, but in these few months, the airline can see traffic shrink by over 50%. They have to make route cuts to preserve the business, and a lot more negative connotations associated. Ultimately, for an airline like Play to really be in it for the long term, they'd like to have robust services year-round. And while, yes, there may be weaker months, they don't want to see such significant drops. Unfortunately, for airlines offering such a business model, they have struggled in this regard. On to the last story, with Ryanair in the last week announcing that it would depart Bordeaux in November. So as a result, no further flights will be offered. The major low-cost airline that calls Europe home said that it obviously regrets its decision to leave the location, and it comes following an inability to reach a firm agreement with the airport to stay on. Ryanair has had a base in Bordeaux for 5 years now, so it's no small operation, with flight data indicating that the day-to-day operation from the location is pretty significant. The airport shares the same stance as Ryanair in that the move comes with a deep sadness. While the base existed for 5 years, the pair have actually worked together for almost a decade and a half. As a result of the latest development, the company confirmed that 40 routes to and from the airport would be cut and 90 jobs would be lost. Bordeaux said that they don't rule out potentially working with Ryanair again in the future, but we know that services will cease in November. Ryanair has not been afraid to be vocal about specific markets and their overall impact on the business, whether in a positive or negative manner. This transparency, I think, is appreciated by most people. The budget carrier very simply cites the increased costs around staying in Bordeaux as a major deterrence. Ryanair knows that it needs to continue diversifying its route network to compete with several other leading companies in the same European market, and Bordeaux had actually confirmed its own interest in reducing the share of local flights. The airport wants to make sure that it can see more traditional companies take the market share, that being your Air France KLM group. Despite departing Bordeaux, Ryanair says it is not slowing growth and will continue opening new bases across Europe in the summer season, including Copenhagen. So, to a certain extent, while sad that Ryanair will leave Bordeaux, and for some certainly a shock, Ryanair just sees it as another opportunity to base aircraft elsewhere and grow its network in different ways. And of course, this doesn't mean that it won't return at some point, but for the moment, they weren't able to come to an agreement. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. I really appreciate your support. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow for your latest aviation news recap.